Hello class, my name is Miss Roveda, and today we're going to be doing a writing lesson on similes and metaphors. Does anyone know what a simile or a metaphor is? Lizzie?
Doesn't one of them use the word like?
Yes, a simile will use the word like or as, and a metaphor does not. Does anyone have any other things that they think similes or metaphors?
So, if you like something, is that a simile?
No. A simile is actually a figure of speech that compares two unlike things using the terms like or as. So, Will, would you want to read this example for me?
That person is as tall as a tree.
Okay, so what two things are being compared?
The person and the tree.
Right, which are unlike things. And how are they being compared? They use which words?
As.
Good. So that makes it a simile. A metaphor, on the other hand, is a figure of speech that compares two unlike things but does not use like or as. So Starla, would you like to read this example?
All the world's a stage.
Good. And it's a metaphor because it doesn't use like or as.
I thought you just said it has to use like or as.
A simile does have to use like or as, but a metaphor does not. So the metaphor and simile both make a comparison between two unlike things, but a simile in its language will use the terms like or as to make that comparison, whereas a metaphor does not. So if you wanted to make all the world's a stage, a simile, you would say all the world is like a stage, or the world is as a stage. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But without the words like or as, it's just a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Got it.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, let's go through some examples. So I've written down 6 examples. They're either sentences or phrases. And I want us to identify which is a simile and which is a metaphor. So let's start with the first one. I have a mound of homework to do. Simile or metaphor? Well,
Metaphor?
good. Why is it a metaphor?
Because it doesn't use like or as.
Right. The clouds are like fluffy pillows. Starla.
Simile.
Why?
It uses the word like.
Good. Hard as a rock. Lizzie?
That one's a simile too because it uses as.
Good. The stars are diamonds in the sky. Sam, do you want to try this one?
Yeah. Is it a simile?
Okay, let's read it one more time. The stars are diamonds in the sky. Now, simile has to use which two words?
Like or as?
Right. So are either the words like or as in this statement?
No.
Okay, so that makes it a
Metaphor.
good. If you wanted to make it a simile, you could say something like, the stars are like diamonds in the sky. And that would make it a simile.
I'll see.
Sea of troubles. Simile or metaphor? Lizzie.
That one's got to be a metaphor because it doesn't have like or as.
Right. And quick like a fox?
Simile.
Good. Why is it a simile, Starla?
It uses the word like.
Perfect. Okay. So I want y'all to come up with one example of a simile and one example of a metaphor. So does anyone have an example of a simile? Starla.
She is skinny like a rail.
She is skinny like a rail. Will, can you tell me why this one's a simile?
Because it uses like.
Good. Does anyone have an example of a metaphor?
I'll try.
Okay.
And you said no like or as?
No like or as in a metaphor.
Alright. She is an angel.
Good. She is an angel. And that's a metaphor because it doesn't use like or as. Okay, thank you very much. That will conclude our lesson for today.